Welcome to the brand new VRCade Shorts podcast. This is based on our last podcast, the VRCade, but we're trying to make it shorter form based on YouTube analytics and feedback so that people can enjoy it more in more of a condensed way. Today's guest is Christian, and he is from District Beta in Sarnia in Ontario, Canada. How you doing, Christian?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Now, thank you very much for coming on. You are the first guest, and we are honored to have you here. We're looking forward to having a chat with you about how you got started and just all things to do with your arcade. So, tell us about your story with District Beta.
So I have a unique story.
Yeah.
I was one of the original customers at District Beta when it opened up in 2017.
Okay.
And that got me to really enjoy virtual reality. And soon after, I bought my own headset. I was fully into that whole universe. And I was browsing Instagram one day and I saw that District Beta was hiring for a casual worker. I ended up applying to it. Unfortunately, I didn't have some of the things that they needed at the time.
Okay.
So I was pretty sad because I really enjoyed it. I ended up reapplying again once I saw another job posting come up,
Mm-hmm.
and I was hired by the owner. And then a couple of years after that, I became the manager.
Yeah.
And then now I'm the sole owner of the business, which is fantastic.
Oh, nice. Nice. How did that come about then?
So the previous owner, he owns a marketing company, so he
Yeah.
decided to kind of shift his primary focus over to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was already running most of the things day to day, and he was just doing a lot of the back end stuff like paying our employees and stuff like that. So he approached me, I believe it was in like October of last year.
Mm-hmm.
And he asked if I wanted to take it over. And I mean, I couldn't say no. I was so happy. It was such a big decision to make, but I said yes right away.
What three pieces of advice would you give to somebody looking to open up a VR arcade?
So the three things I would say is do the market research, see if it's something like the city or town that you're in is something that it wants or it can actually sustain. And don't do it for the wrong reasons is another thing. Don't just get into it because you think it'll make you a lot of money. Actually be passionate about what you're doing because it does take a lot of effort and a lot of work. And start off small. I wouldn't, go rent this giant unit and put in like 20 VR headsets and arcades and all that stuff. Like, I think something like that would burn you out and it'd be a lot harder to control.
Mm-hmm.
So I think starting off just nice and small, kind of like District Beta did originally, is perfect.
Yeah, because I saw this story on your website. It's a pretty cool story how it started and kind of expanded, and you slowly got machines and pool tables and all that kind of thing. So the old previous owner started off quite small. Then I think he said after like 6 months, he decided to get a bigger space, right?
Yeah. So I think it was about six months to a year. He moved into a bigger location,
Mm-hmm.
kept the same amount of VR, got arcade machines. We set up consoles so people could play like retro consoles, and yeah, I mean we're still evolving. Like now we have a full game store in our location, so people can buy retro games, they can buy new games, they can buy Pokemon cards, things like that.
Yeah, it's a really good mix and match to kind of attract different people for different reasons.
Correct. So
Yeah,
we're trying to basically build like the one-stop shop for all types of gamers and families and basically honestly anybody.
yeah.
Like that's like creating an inclusive environment is kind of what our main focus is.
What would you say if I was to ask you to name three marketing strategies that have been successful for your arcade?
So social media has been a big one. We
Mm-hmm.
have a pretty big presence on like Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
Yep.
So getting out to those people, it's been huge. Customer relationship marketing. So basically building relationships with our customers, creating returning customers and loyal customers, but also getting like those customers like it so much that they bring their families, they bring their friends.
Yes.
They tell so many people about it. So it's just a lot of word of mouth. And then SEO in our area is probably one of the big ones.
Okay.
So right now we hold like one of the main um, like if you type in escape room Sarnia, we're one of the first ones that pop up for our virtual escape rooms. So different things like that helps us out a lot.
When it comes to picking a location for VR arcade, what would you say are the most important things to look for?
So I think depends on I guess the town or city that you're looking into,
Hmm.
but I would say population is kind of important. You don't really want to go somewhere below like a certain amount because it's not gonna be worth your time. Um, but for what we did is we opened up in a city of 75,000 people.
Hmm.
Uh, so it's not too big, it's also not too small. And I think it's also important to have a spot that there's going to be a lot of foot traffic, to allow people to easily get to your location.
Yeah.
Public transportation is another important thing. So having it set somewhere that, people who don't drive every day can have the ability to actually go there. Um, and also, like in our city, parking is kind of an important one. So somewhere that has like a pretty solid foundation for a parking lot, and then also somewhere that has enough space for you to grow into as well. So if you want to add more VRs, VR stations, free roam, anything like that,
Hmm.
it's kind of important to even just like look for somewhere a little bit bigger than what you'd originally be looking for, just to give yourself that room to grow if you wanted to.
What licensing platform do you use the most for your games, and why have you chosen that particular one?
So currently we use Synthesis, and we've been using Synthesis for a few years now.
Yep.
We continue and probably will continue to use them because we've never had any issues with them.
Hmm.
We find that the software is very easy to use, very easy to train our staff on. And the fact that we used to use Springboard, I believe, in the past, and our internet used to cut out where we were at before.
Yeah.
And that would kind of render the whole system kind of offline. Whereas Synthesis, if the internet cuts out, it's still runs its own servers and it's all fine. Like there's no issues.
Oh, nice. That's really handy, actually.
It is. That was one of the most that was one of the bigger reasons why we originally switched over to synthesis.
What three questions would you ask somebody to qualify them? So somebody's just come in, said, "I've want to check out your arcade." What are the main three questions would you say ask them about their experience and to get them into the right kind of game?
Right. So depending on what they're looking to do, if they're looking to do virtual reality, our first question is like, have you played VR before? Is kind of the most obvious one.
Yeah.
Um, and if like another question we ask if they say yes is, have you played here before? So that kind of gives us a little bit more of an understanding of that if they're going to be less hands-on or more hands-on.
Sure.
If they've never played VR before, we ask if they've played video games. That way we can kind of also like kind of ask them what kind of games they do like to play so we can make the connection from the standard video games to the VR video games for them. That way they have a more enjoyable time.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Right. And then another important one for us is we always watch out for customers that get motion sickness. So if they've never played VR before, then we kind of only recommend games that have like a teleport style movement or
Hmm.
more of a standstill style movement, just so that way, it doesn't ruin their experience by getting motion sick.
What would you say is the most user friendly VR headset to use if you were going to have a VR arcade?
Ooh, that's a tough one. So I would say there's two.
Hmm.
Right now, I would say the Quest 2 is probably the most user friendly, mostly because I'd say most people have either seen or have tried, have their own. So if you have it at the arcade, it's going to be a lot easier and a lot more hands off if you
Hmm.
have those. Um, but also the original Vive, like the Vive wands, there's not as many buttons on those, so it's less complicated for like older people, for people that don't really know much about technology. It's a
Yeah.
lot better for those type of people. So I know it's kind of tough to choose one or the other, but I would personally say the Quest 2 has been our most user friendly.
That's interesting because a lot of people have said like the Vives, like the Vive Pros and the things like that. So that's quite interesting that you say that.
Right, and I think it kind of comes down to a lot of our customers have their own headsets,
Yeah.
but but they like to come to district beta because it's more of like a social thing. They actually can play
Yeah.
multiplayer, so a lot of them just pick up the hardware and they just go right to it, and it's very hands on for our staff, or very hands off for our staff.
What area of running a VR arcade would you like to improve on when it comes to your business, and how would you go about it?
So I think my general stance on my current like our current setup right now is that like we're kind of like a technology company, so offering the latest and the better hardware is kind of where I want to focus more of my time into.
Okay.
So I'd like to offer different headsets, like maybe like the Quest 3, or get different technology like some of the omnidirectional treadmills, like the haptic feedback vests.
Yeah.
Do more stuff like that.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
think that comes with time and money, though.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Just at least get past your first year, right, before you start throwing
Right.
money back into it.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, I've been trying to take all these ideas and shrink them down and just focus on the most important things right now.
What type of game do you think is missing from the VR arcade market? Something that you think that your customers would really love, but nobody's quite made something to that specification.
So I would say there's two.
Hmm.
So Job Simulator is the most popular game at our location. So
Yes.
having a sort of multiplayer Job Simulator style game where the physics are fun, there's no real consequences, so they can just have fun would be fantastic. And then another one would be just a very high quality escape room, but one that
Hmm.
has like more I would say like more action involved with it. So the fact that you can get like pick up a sword and actually fight like some skeletons or something like that, where it's not just, oh, I need to solve the next clue to get to the next location. So it's a little bit more involved.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think our customer base really likes those two sort of ideas. So I think those would be fantastic.
Okay. Did you try out Atlantis then?
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
So myself and a couple of my employees, we tried it out and we thought it was fantastic. For the especially the reason where one of us could pick up the was it like the gauntlet that shoots the
Yes.
lasers,
Yeah.
yeah, and then the bow, and then you work together to take down the golems or the stone creatures, and it was fantastic.
Yeah. That's something exactly what you said about we wanted to be action, adventure, and escape. So we wanted to have the kind of combat part to it as well, because there's so many great escape games, but not all of them have like there's not a lot of combat in most of the escape games. So that's something that we're trying to do with that Atlantis. So yeah, appreciate you playing it and for the feedback as well.
Yeah, and I think it's unique in the sense of like I think a lot of like you might as well utilize VR for what it is. So just
Yeah.
add all of those sorts of elements to it, and it'll make a great experience for everybody.
What would be the most important thing that leads to customer satisfaction? So what is the one thing that you strive on doing for so that when the customer leaves, they're happy basically?
So I would say it's our customer service is the big one.
Hmm.
So that goes kind of back to our like marketing where we like to create those relationships.
Yeah.
Um, all of our employees are kind of trained to try to remember all the customers' names, remember what they did the previous times that they came in, so that way we can kind of chat about it and find like common ground. We also are very attentive, so if a customer is kind of struggling on the virtual reality, we like to step in and help them out before they ask for it, before
Yes.
they take the headset off and stuff like that. So that way it doesn't take away from the time that they have at district beta.
Hmm.
And that's one thing we've been given like tons of compliments on is our customer service. So that's what we like to keep improving and making better.
Excellent. So it's yeah. So it boils down to the rapport building part of things and being attentive to the customer, meeting the customer's needs, which is basic sales, right? That's
Right.
what you need. Yeah. So it
And,
sounds like you guys. Sorry, go on.
yeah, and just giving them a better overall experience from when they first come into the
Mhm.
door to when they leave. That's something they'll always remember. And then yeah, I think that's generally the most important thing for our business.
Yeah, it sounds like you guys are doing a great job, and the place is always busy. So yeah, it's really cool, and it's great that you managed to kind of get the arcade for yourself? Because you're clearly really passionate, and it's like a dream job, right? It's a dream thing to have your own arcade.
It is, and it's not somewhere I was expecting to be right now. Like
Yeah.
it's completely different from where I thought I'd be, and I'm having the most fun I think I've had. So yeah, it's been a joy.
Thank you so much, Christian, for coming on, being our first guest of the VRCade Shorts podcast. Really appreciate it. It's been great talking to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This is awesome.
It's been great. We'll have you on again at some point. I think doing the shorter form ones and kind of quick fire questions, I'm liking it. So yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. We'll see you again very soon. Take care. Bye.